Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this afternoon's teleconsultation on building a regional transaction banking platform, cases and approaches. I'm very happy that we have brought together a highly experienced panel of speakers and presenters that will present a practitioner's as well as a technology perspective on this topic. I'm Fu Boon Ping, the managing editor of the Asian Banker. I'll be the moderator for today's session. Before we start, let me just give a bit of background on the topic. Today we'll be talking about transaction banking environment is becoming increasingly important for transaction banks in the current low margin environment to possess a robust regional transaction banking platform that not only integrate business segments such as cash management, trade finance, and treasury, but also to provide multi-currency, multi-language capabilities. Today, we will explore how banks can achieve leadership and increase wallet share in this area. We are very happy today that we have very experienced speakers on this topic. We have in the panel today Marie Caroline Domingo. She's the head of client access product Asia Pacific Global Transaction Banking at Deutsche Bank. We also have Mr. Lu Eng Hock, Global Head Cash Management at Maybank. We also have Mr. Sanjit Rao, Vice President Oracle FlexCube Development and our very own research analyst Esther Tan. Now, Esther will be presenting key findings from the recently completed Asia Pacific FI Cash and Trade Trends and Satisfaction Report 2013. She'll be presenting findings from the satisfaction surveys, which will provide in-depth assessments of international FIs by domestic banks. The survey is based on the evaluation of 40 banks in 12 key countries across Asia. She'll present analysis of major trends, developments in cash and trade, and will share with us insights on international transaction banks that are keen on optimizing engagement with their domestic counterparty. Now, this will then be followed by a Q&A session. Now, for our callers who are interested to share their views or to ask questions of the panelists, there are two ways that you can do this. First, you can type your question into the dialog box, which is at the bottom right corner of the WebEx screen. The other way is to click on the hand icon in the WebEx box. That will register your interest to ask a question or to participate in the discussion, and we will open the line for you. Now, today's teleconsultation will discuss three key areas. One is the current competitive landscape and development in transaction banking in Asia. We'll also be touching on the key challenges in building a robust transaction banking system. And there will be case studies of core technology architecture within the transaction bank. So to get us started on the session, let me welcome Esther. Esther will present the survey findings from the Asia Pacific Cash and Trade Trends Report. Esther?
Thank you, Boon Ping. This is Esther here, and I'm a research analyst with the Asian Banker. Before I go into key findings, I would like to share how the satisfaction report comes about. Next slide, please, Felin. Okay, for those who are familiar with what we do, transaction banking is one of the main business lines that we cover besides retail banking. We are in the process of building a comprehensive coverage of transaction banking industry and to also track the emerging trends. Next slide, please. Annually, we hold annual awards, and the submission period runs from December to February. These are the following awards category that we have. We cover 13 countries in the region, and we receive about 40 submissions for each domestic category for each award. Next slide, please, Felin. Okay, this is the scorecard for the evaluation as refined through the years to accommodate the new trends. This year, we added product innovation as an additional dimension to recognize that transaction banks are investing in technologies and platforms to keep ahead of their customers' needs. This should also result in tangible income or cost benefit. Next slide, please. Okay, from here I'll be sharing the key findings of the annual Asia Pacific FI Cash and Trade Trends and Satisfaction Report. The key areas covered in this report are key themes, market share, product innovation, and the satisfaction survey. The survey is formed on how satisfied the regional banks are with their international partners. Okay, next slide, please. Right, moving forward, these are the key themes identified by both the international and regional banks. They have identified regional platforms, multi-channel banking, and mobile banking as the main themes for last year, 2012 and 2013. There's a trend towards the integration of the cash, trade, and treasury platforms, which are multi-currency and multilingual capabilities. Cross-border accessibility is also a key factor as the banks, FIs, and corporate clients expand regionally. Clients are also seen to be diversifying their banking providers, thus a platform which has multi-bank and multi-entity application that facilitates the uniform, real-time, and secure exchange of information between all the parties is becoming more and more essential. Next slide, please. Right. As for trade finance, participant banks have cited supply chain, Asia-focus, and renminbi solutions as the emerging trends. For supply chain, by offering a whole spectrum of supply chain solutions, more flows can be handled by one bank. This creates a win-win situation for the entire supply chain as trades are executed in the most cost-effective manner. This results in shorter document journey time, early receipt of funds for the seller, and early receipt of goods for the buyer. Thus, these solutions that we have seen include warehouse and distributor financing, and even solutions customized for specific industries. Next slide, please. Now that we go into the satisfaction survey, this touches on the transaction banking business as a whole, and then it dives into cash and trade. So this first chart that we see here, okay, we see that the satisfaction scores for the international transaction banks overall transaction banking services. Here we have a close fight among the top international banks. These international banks were voted for their ability to provide not only competitive pricing, but also responsiveness and quality of their services. They also provide clients with a range of innovative products and focus on building long-term relationships to grow with the expanding regional players. Next slide, please. Okay. Here we have the key characteristics that the regional banks deem are most important when choosing their international partners. The key features that the regional banks seek are competitiveness and flexibility of pricing, consistent customer relation management, and processing a global reach. Pricing has become vital in an environment of compressed margins, and these findings on the other main determining factors underscore the importance of the move towards customer centricity and relationship banking. Next slide, please. Okay. On the cash management front, regional banks are paying more attention to the quality of service that international players provide, selecting banks based on their level of service instead of product and infrastructure capabilities such as straight-through processing and swift connectivity. This emphasizes the fact that banks are looking to forge relationships to support the increasing volume of intra-Asian trade done today. BNY is consistently rated well, probably due to its sole focus on the FIs in this region and its global network reach. As for Deutsche Bank, regional banks voted it for its ability to provide an advisory role and innovations such as the Autobahn, which integrates various business units such as cash and treasury. Next slide, please. Okay, for trade finance, the survey shows that the technology and processing center support as well as LC reimbursements, as in the letter of credit reimbursements, play a significant part. This trend shows that regional FIs are keen on automating the origination of trade documents and reducing the risk of human errors arising from manual documentation. JP Morgan was able to deliver closely aligned services while providing quality client service experience. Its trade platform enables outsourcing and automation of end-to-end trade document submission. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so we have come to the end of this presentation. You might note that I have only touched on the main points of this report. So for any more information, you can always contact us. Thank you.
Okay, Esther, thanks for that insightful presentation. Esther, just one question before we move on to the next speaker. Your slide, one of it referred to the need for highly customized and integrated solutions, especially when banks, corporate customers are moving their business across the region. I know in the survey we cover both Asian regional banks as well as the international banks. Could you tell us a little bit more about the different approach that you see the banks taking in terms of providing integrated solutions?
Okay, considering the key trends that we noted, such as the increase in intra-regional trade, the rise of renminbi, and a deeper focus on capturing the entire supply chain flow, banks are adopting an advisory-based consultative approach, as I have mentioned. Besides providing a customized and integrated suite of products and services to support the diverse cross-border requirements across the regions, banks are also advising their clients on regulatory issues that are increasing in number and complexity.
Okay, thanks, Esther. Now, next we have the perspective from an Asian regional bank that are growing its transaction business as it follows its customers across Asia, and in particular in the ASEAN region. Let me introduce Mr. Lu Eng Hock. He's the Global Head of Cash Management at Maybank. Now, Eng Hock has got more than 20 years of banking experience managing banking system and planning. As I mentioned, Eng Hock is the Global Head of Cash Management, and he oversees 12 ASEAN countries. And he's been very involved in the launch of Maybank to E-Regional Cash, a regional cash management platform in Malaysia, Singapore, and the Philippines, which will be rolled throughout ASEAN by 2014. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome Eng Hock to share his experience on the rollout of Maybank to E. Eng Hock.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Boon Peng. Thank you, Esther. Very interesting slides from Esther, talking about what the customers are looking for as a regional or global transaction banking business. People are looking for more on the consultative roles, advising roles, from the cash management, trade, and security services perspective. Now, for Maybank, we have launched this Maybank to E cash in 2012 in Singapore, Malaysia, Global China, Philippines. Now will be in this. Currently, we are working on in Indonesia. Now, by end of this year, we should be able to complete our objective in such a way that we should be able to link up all these regions. Now, while we are building all these things, we have always remember we have our vision and our goal where we want to achieve. Our vision here is to be a regional leader in cash management services, build leading ASEAN cash management capabilities, drive regional growth in income and deposits, maintain parity of cash management capabilities with competitors, position for future growth. Now, of course, when you come to goal, right, we have to ensure that it has to be in line with our vision. Our goal here is to create a standard regional cash management platform complemented by a set of standardized process to complement the regional platform. Now, the key challenge are as below. Now, we have three key challenges here: people, process, and technology. I always call it PPT. Now, people-wise, what we have done here is we break into two areas. One group of people will be looking after the technology. That is where either they are working with the internal or external vendors or developers. Whereas process is equally important. You can have a system without process in the respective country is as good as there's no system at all, or there's no drive to have a standard process. So we have a group of people who are doing the process engineering. So it's very important for us to have, first thing, form a organization structure to define their roles and responsibility clearly, so that we can also identify the right people to drive or to play the roles as what we have defined. Now, so that when it comes to a process, for example, those people who are supposed to deal with the in-country regulators, we have to make sure that whatever we do, it comply with the regulators' requirements. For example, in Singapore, it's called MAS, Malaysia, BNN, HKMA, BSP, CBRC. So all these things, we cannot run away. We have to ensure that we comply. For example, like there are certain things like two-factor authentication. Make sure that we do roll it out, even though some country doesn't require it. So that's how we standardize it across the board. Whereas standard operating policies, when you are onboarding customers, make sure that you have a standard documentation, legal docs. All these things will be part of the standardized operating policies and procedures. Back office is also equally important for them to support our customers in the respective country. So we have to make sure that either we go for centralization or decentralization, but at the end of the day, the operating policies is more or less will be standardized across the board. Technology, we have always challenges to integrate into your core banking. So we have to spend a little bit more time to ensure that the integration being carried out properly. Now, different country, when you go, you have different kind of challenges, especially when it comes to telecommunication, bandwidth, all these things. Go to Singapore, no issue, bandwidth, perfect. But you go to other countries, like Indochina, Philippines, you may encounter some a little bit hiccup here and there, especially when it comes to telecommunication. But again, challenges are always there. Is for us to take it up and make sure that we get the right technology and the right solution to deliver for our customers. Now, come to the what they call that the regional target operating model. What we have done here is we have standardized our legal docs and onboarding customers documentation. Make sure that it's not too thick or not too much, so that we can cover all the legal terms and conditions within 2 or 3 pages, rather than go through one whole stack of like a yellow pages book. So training is also equally important. Make sure that we have proper training to be given to our sales staff. Same goes to our support and implementation, so that we can onboard the customers within a very short turnaround time. Turnaround time is key. First dollar is very important for them to make sure that they bring in the revenue for the organization. And then in terms of regional communication and marketing, now we also have a group of team from a head office to drive it, to ensure that messages have been sent out or standardize it across the board. All will be driven from the group office. Now, next page, please. Next slide, please. Last but not least, the way forward that we are working on here is this. Now, our objective here is to integrate our trade finance, supply chain management, security services into a truly regional transaction banking platform to give a consistent access and experience for our corporate clients. Then followed by a customized solution for clients' ecosystem. Rightly pointed out by Esther, I think customization is something is key. Now, there are certain things that we always thought that with the global system that you have created, there will be the end, and there's nothing much you need to do for your global clients. But you have to understand, whenever we do, before we onboard any customers, we always go through the business requirement study to ensure that whatever we are going to deliver to our customers, it meets their requirements. that is where both sides, will always be in communication to ensure that we are talking to each other and deliver according to what our customers are looking for. Now, another one here is will be to strengthen our identity and branding, and last but not least, to ensure that we continue to create to expand our multi-channels, multilingual, and to create the best for our external and internal customers. So thank you very much, and back to you, Boon Peng.
Okay, thanks, Eng Hock. Now, earlier we were discussing just before we came online. Now, this is probably the first centralized system that you've launched. What were some of the early feedback from both internal users as well as some of your corporate customers? What were some of the major lessons that you learned that you'll be carrying into the next phase of implementation to the rest of the other countries in your network?
Okay, that's not the end of the implementation now. Now it's a continuous improvement process where we have to continuously look at the security aspect, product capabilities. Right, for certain countries, for instance, there are certain countries there's a unique requirement. I give you example like check printing in certain country in the ASEAN region is still highly demanded, whereas in certain countries like in Malaysia, we are going into e-payment. That's why the e-payment has the e-payments cost has been reduced significantly. The pricing now I can rightly share with everyone. It has been reduced. For instance, our gyro has been reduced to 10 cents. So we also have to work hand in hand together with our regulators. For example, like talking about this FATCA in the US, focus on this tax compliance and has a stringent know your clients implication, all these things. Whether we need our customers or requirements, all these things, we are always participating in this survey, such as Greenwich, working hand in hand with you guys, the ASEAN Banker, and the rest, to get feedback from our customers. Now, we also have our own internal survey, so there are ways of getting information or feedback from our customer. One is from internal, the other one is from external. So we are from there. We always take on from the product development team to continuously to drive up our quality of our products. Boon Peng, back to you.
Okay, thanks, Eng Hock. Okay, certainly there are a lot of areas that you brought up that we can go into deeper discussion. But at this point, let me kind of introduce our next presenter who will give another case study from an international bank perspective. Glad to introduce to you Marie Caroline Domingo. Marie is responsible for client access products, as I mentioned earlier, at Deutsche Bank. So she'll be sharing a case study on the Autobahn app market, which is created by Deutsche Bank, kind of bespoke solution that integrates its electronic distribution channel. So, Marie?
Thank you, and good afternoon to everyone on the call. Right, so just to jump in very quickly, I will share Deutsche Bank's experience in terms of what we have done in integrating the various electronic tools that we have in the bank across both our global transaction banking business as well as our corporate banking and securities business. So can we go to the next slide, please? Right, so just the starting point, some of the key challenges that we started off when we first looked at the Autobahn app market initiative was that we found that across Deutsche Bank, our landscape was quite diverse. We had multiple platforms and entry points, and typically this has created an inconsistent user experience for our customers. We also had many divergent brands when it comes to our electronic tools, and clients typically have to remember multiple passwords when they have to access their e-services in the bank. So we were not able to offer clients the ability to access all their electronic services through a single channel, and that's when we started to put together an initiative to harmonize and bring together all our electronic tools via a single distribution platform. So if you go to the next page, basically that's when we started our Autobahn App Market initiative, and the vision really is to create a common distribution channel for all our electronic tools, as well as start to establish an optimal architecture from a bank perspective, and I'll talk a little bit about that. Maybe that will be interesting to some of you. And of course, the best or the key thing for us really is our clients. And what we want to deliver with the Autobahn App Market is best-in-class user experience, where we provide customers products that are driven by client feedback, and that we provide them a consistent and unified experience across the many electronic tools that they use with Deutsche Bank. We also want to make sure that we can make our products simple, easy to use, and intuitive. And for a global bank to actually make your online products simple is not very simple. So, but this is the journey that we have started on, and what we want to achieve is provide our customers simple access via the Autobahn App Market. And on this platform, we aim to give them transparency to the full suite of product offering of Deutsche Bank. Again, as I said, this is not just across the transaction banking business, but also with our corporate banking and securities services. So in the Autobahn App Market platform, we provide services for our cash management, trade finance, and security services customers. So all our services across the transaction banking is provided or will be provided through Autobahn App Market. In addition to that, some of the other apps developed in our corporate banking and securities world will also be visible to our transaction banking customers. And some of those are providing market research as well as market data information and analytics, which will be provided to our transaction banking clients as well. And overall, what we will try to do is to improve the user experience and allow our clients flexible and customizable setup when they are on the Autobahn App Market platform. Next slide, please. So the idea is for our customers, they have a one-stop shop. So they log in, they will land on the Autobahn App Market homepage, and there they will able to see the full suite of apps that are available from Deutsche Bank, and they are also able to customize, right? They can pick and select which apps are relevant to them in their daily workflow, and they are able to customize and drag and drop apps into their favorites area. And they can also do a very powerful search across not just all the different apps that are available, but they can also search on various topics, and we are able to provide all the relevant content, for example, research, trader commentary, and other market data and analytics to customers. So very powerful, simple, easy to use search engine. Next page, please. So from a bank perspective, the Autobahn App Market also provides us key benefits by allowing us to establish an optimal architecture within the bank. Some of the things that we want to achieve is that with the Autobahn App Market, we have a framework where there will be common services or foundation apps that are available. We build them once, and we can actually use them many times when developing new apps. This allows us not only to improve the usage or promote the usage of common services, but it also allows us to optimize our time to market, because what it means is that if you're developing a new app, you don't need to develop services or functionality that already exists. You can leverage that functionality from a common service. So a good example of that would be authentication, right? Something that every app needs to have, and typically if you're building this on a siloed basis, you would actually build your own native authentication. But authentication is something that you can build common and make available to all the different services or product lines that would need authentication. And the good thing about that is, for example, we mentioned already some of the key challenges is meeting regulatory guidelines around security. And these days we see more and more, especially in Asia, the requirement for strong authentication. So if we want to develop two-factor authentication in our platforms, if we build it once, in a common authentication layer, we don't need to replicate that across many apps. Instead, we build it once, and all the other apps that are integrated in the platform automatically benefit. And for a global bank, that's very important because typically apps are developed for one country. It starts out to be developed for one country, but eventually, as the client segment expands to different markets, we would want to roll it out in other locations. And having something like a common authentication platform helps with that, because it means that we are able to meet authentication requirements, across Singapore, Malaysia, the U.S., or Germany, right? So building reusable services is a key thing, and the Autobahn app market framework from a technology perspective provides that for us. Next page, please. So in terms of process, in how we want to achieve this, I think one key thing that we have really is client-driven product development. So it is very important for us that all our products are developed based on client feedback, and we believe that the clients really drive user design excellence. And for us to achieve our vision and mission to be best in class when it comes to user experience, we really have to engage our customers in this design process. So what we have done for some of our existing applications is that before we redesign these applications to be integrated into the Autobahn app market, we have actually done very extensive client research. We've interviewed customers. We spent time with them to determine their workflows, their needs, and their requirements. And this actually feeds into the design of the new app. And that will result in a product that is more suited to what the user really needs, what the user wants. So as I said, building products that are simple, easy to use, and intuitive is not so easy. But if you partner with your clients, that is the way to go. And from a Deutsche Bank perspective, that is the methodology that we are using. Next slide, please. So to summarize, very quickly, this is just a quick insight into our experience in building an integrated platform, the Autobahn app market. And what it really provides will be a single access point to all our customers, to the bank's electronic products and services. And from a client perspective, they can pick and choose the tools or the apps that are relevant to their individual work remit and role. And from a Deutsche Bank perspective, we allow clients to get direct access to all our services from a transaction banking perspective, plus the services from our corporate banking and securities business. So this is really, for us, a very powerful tool, and benefiting our customers in terms of expanded scope into access to our services, and benefiting the bank in terms of allowing us to optimize our architecture, maximize our brand power, and provide a true single-stop shop for our clients from an electronic services perspective. And that's it for my presentation. Any questions?
Marie, hi. Thanks for that insightful presentation. Very interesting. When you talk about your architecture, the bespoke architecture, built once, used many times, and which optimize time to market. And earlier we were discussing in terms of you have different product lines, probably creating different products. Apps as well. What were some of the challenges in terms of bringing them together on a kind of common architecture? And how do you break down the silos? What were some of the lessons learned, some of the challenges, especially as you operate as a global bank across many different markets?
Yeah, I think the main challenge is to really strike the right balance between providing a global standard framework to the different product lines that are developing apps, but still yet provide them the flexibility to develop the individual apps to suit their individual customer needs. So how did we overcome that? We overcame that by actually, from the Autobahn app market side, providing an overarching framework around certain elements. So things like style guide, look and feel. There are certain guidelines that you need to adhere to be able to integrate your app into the Autobahn app market to promote that consistent user experience. But those are very broad, overarching guidelines that still allows flexibility within sort of each individual app owner to actually then define the detailed workflows within their application. But there are sort of golden rules that you must adhere to. So that's one aspect. Another aspect is from the Autobahn perspective, the Autobahn app market has actually developed a set of developer toolkits that would be sort of available to any development team that would need to develop a new app, so that if there is a brand new app to be built, we actually already have a toolkit that would allow developers to build that app, and it will already be compliant to the standards of the Autobahn framework. So it's not an easy thing, but what you would need to have is a very good governance model around that. You definitely need to have sort of a committee that will look at all the different apps that would be integrated, and to make sure that the standards are adhered to, but they are not standards that are so prescripted to the detail level that it will be very difficult for the individual app owners to manage it, right? So I think it's definitely a challenge, but it's a balance of having a standard and yet provide enough flexibility.
Okay, thanks, Marie. In terms of the guideline, does it go down to the level of which kind of technology provider or partners you work with, or that's pretty open as well, as long as they use the toolkit and follow the guidelines?
Yes, correct. As long as this, it's pretty much up to each product owner or application owner. They decide whether they want the development to be done internally or with a vendor partner, or even if they want to use the toolkit, they can. It's also possible to use different toolkits, but as long as the overall standards are adhered to, it's not a problem. Again, that's the balance of kind of ensuring everyone has the flexibility. I think if you try to be too strict about these things, then that's where it will be very difficult to really integrate into a single platform.
Okay, I think it's also important to clarify. Here, when we talk about apps, this is not to be confused with the mobile apps, but these are really desktop apps for your corporate clients.
From the Autobahn perspective, we actually have the Autobahn app market is the web-based platform. So we have the Autobahn app market, which is web-based, and typically this is where all our web-based applications are integrated into. We also have an Autobahn toolbar, which is a desktop version, and for some of our apps which requires a client, that is sort of the distribution tool that is used, Autobahn toolbar. We also have or newly developed an Autobahn mobile framework, which we are planning to launch, and that is something that will work with for example, tablet devices. So from an Autobahn perspective, there are three modes of distribution: desktop, web, and mobile. But from a transaction banking perspective, we are only for now looking at the web-based distribution channel, which is the Autobahn app market.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. Okay, okay, we need to move on before we open up for more questions. And at this point, let me just give a reminder to all callers. If you would like to participate in the Q&A, you can send us your questions, or you can flag your intention so that we can open the line for you. Right now, I would like to introduce Sanjit Rao, Vice President, Oracle. He'll be talking about the next generation transaction banking landscape, and he'll be talking about some of the technological challenges as well as architecture that we have been kind of touching on so far. So let me kind of welcome Sanjit. Sanjit, please.
Thank you, Boonping, and good afternoon to everybody. I'll spend the next 8 or 10 minutes trying to take you through the next generation transaction banking platform. Could we move to the next slide, please? Next slide. So we'll first see what are the drivers and trends, and we'll see after that the future of transaction banking. And I represent Oracle, and Oracle has been developing FlexCube, which is a platform for the same. And we'll try and show you some of the experiences that FlexCube we've had in terms of rolling it out across transaction banks across the globe. Next slide, please. So we clearly understand the transaction banking landscape. It's changing. Trade finance has gathered importance. There is convergence of cash and trade. And I think the most important phenomena that's seen globally is in terms of appearance of regional economic forums. There is something in ASEAN region. Europe has been through it for a while and taken it into a single currency also, which may not happen elsewhere. But similarly, in Africa, we've seen in the sub-Saharan African countries, there is a lot of economic activity that's kind of getting together an economic hub. Now, of course, the emergence, the challenges really are around the changing business landscape in terms of convergence of cash and trade. And when there's an economic zone, then the payment systems need to be very sophisticated, because a lot of traditional payment systems probably are not geared to handle the kind of sophistication that's required. And they look at international payments and domestic payments as two different areas and two different segments. But when you're kind of operating within a region, these economic zones kind of tend to put things together into one logical space. We've seen it like, a payment grouping happens, and a payment authority is there common across multiple countries and so on. And then, of course, the emergence of, and we've heard conversations around emergence of how the newer technologies, whether it's digital, online, and internet, are posing challenges for the banks to expand quickly into the transaction banking space. The requirements are really driven around standardization, automation, and having very sophisticated intelligence in terms of BI and business intelligence to be able to evaluate how much is the revenues that you're going to get by expanding your business into the multiple countries. You can move to the next slide, please. Right? So it's important when looking at transaction banking to look at a platform that allows you to have the different functionalities that you're looking for from a transaction banking perspective. Now, in terms of customer connectivity, the corporate should be able to connect to the bank, get all the information across, and typically these corporates are likely to be operating in multiple countries, and you need to offer standardized products, and they should have a view of having each of visibility into their operations into different countries in terms of consolidation and so on. A strong business process management framework is required in the transaction banking landscape, as well as the functionality around cash and liquidity management, trade finance, security services. And finally, the emergence of unification of payments will be a very key theme that financial institutions will look for in the space of transaction banking. Next slide, please. From a channels perspective, it is extremely important to have a completely and consistent experience for the corporate customer, whether corporate customer is accessing information through self-service channels, whether it is the internet, whether it's the mobile, or whether it's the tablet. It is very important that the customers are able to get maximum information, the bank's customers are able to get maximum information, as well as get consistent information and experience, irrespective of how the channel is operating, which channel the information is sought from. For example, you could choose to have different deployments of your core systems behind in a transaction banking in the transaction banking world, but your customers need to be able to operate consistently from the channels. So while on the back office you may have multiple systems simply because of the rollout plans that may hinder in terms of how you roll out different systems in the back end. From a customer perspective, it's extremely important to kind of have a fully unified experience, because they would really be operating across multiple countries and they would like to have all the information readily available to them. Next slide, please. In the transaction banking space, treasury management plays a very important role, and how the challenges would be around getting information and making the corporate ERP systems get straight into the bank in terms of giving projections on payables and receivables, helping them in the liquidity management, as well as the cash forecasting and so on. Now, the transaction banking platform really needs to also cater to the corporate interbank banking needs, as well as ability to provide very sophisticated forecasting on the balances, so forecasting on money, as well as banks may not, corporate customers may not necessarily need to have banking relationship with one bank. They may choose to have banking relationships with multiple banks, but banks can really look forward with a very strong transaction banking capability to offer functionality around multi-bank cash concentration, where you as a bank could probably play the lead role and move in the money from other banks by sending out requests for getting the money in, and then you can offer the cash concentration and give the benefit of pooling the money and giving advantage on the interest, and then sending back the money out to the respective bank. So this is really emerging, and we are investing heavily in this space to bring out functionality around this. Thank you very much. Can you move to the next slide, please? Of course, transaction banking focus is around trade finance, the trade services utilities emerge, and as well as bank payment obligations. And there is a move from the traditional trade finance into the trade services utility and bank payments obligations. So it means that when banks expand into newer countries, the real trade offerings will have to be more sophisticated, and the platform underlying needs to cater to these sophistication in the trade products. Obviously, it also brings in that because you're operating across multiple countries, you need to have similarity in offerings. The same offering needs to be a regional offering with some minor global flavors. So your system should be able to enable the governance of creating a product once, and its ability of the business product to be serviced across multiple countries, maybe with minor variations, but it should also support having one standard product at the same time, maybe with some minor variations, so that you have good governance and control in terms of who can do operations on that, which of the countries can operate, which of the countries cannot operate, and so on. So that kind of sophistication would be required, because you are looking at a platform which is going to be deployed across multiple countries, maybe in the same geographic region or maybe a couple of geographic regions. Next slide, please. The important area that's also happening is the convergence of cash and trade. So the whole cycle around the payables and receivables and reducing the cash cycles is an important focus area. And the sophistication that's really required is around the making all of this from the time of invoicing to time of payment and converging the two and bringing in much more sophistication as against the traditional way of doing trade is something that is emerging, and the system really needs to cater to this area of convergence of cash and trade. Next slide, please. I briefly touched upon this. A lot of systems out there really are catering to banks have systems for different kind of payments and really don't have a holistic and one view of payments across the organization. The important thing is to have a payments platform which is kind of unified, which gives all the sophistication that is required to handle the payments. Now, what really happens is that there is a lot of platforms out there would have been developed with single currency in mind, and hence the ability to cater to different geographies, different requirements around different countries is limited. We've seen the trend in Europe where different payment systems finally converge into a SEPA kind of framework where it is one currency. But in some of the geographies, it is also emerging that the platform needs to be able to support multiple currencies and clearing through multiple currencies, though each country may have its own payment network and payment requirements in that sense. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. FlexCube, we have an interesting case study of FlexCube. So I will just briefly touch upon the interesting case study of FlexCube. FlexCube has been deployed in one of the largest financial institutions of the world. This is a long-running project in terms of the number of, in terms of what they achieved by rolling out FlexCube across the transaction back across the globe. Some statistics in terms of number of countries. It was in rollout about 71 countries, covering different business areas, primarily around accounts, payments, and trade finance and treasury. The deployment model has been to have the 4 hubs, and FlexCube has been taken into these 4 hubs and deployed across about 71 countries. So what the customer really got from was replacing multiple systems across the globe with one single system, unification of the number of deployments and consolidating it into only 4 regions rather than having many more smaller deployments and so on. And finally, the approach taken has benefited them immensely from a technology perspective to really take this product forward and offer standardized products across different geographies with multi-country, multi-entity, as well as multi-currency support, and enable them to cater to varying customer requirements across the globe by a single platform. Finally, we've had diverse deployments. How do you go about a global transaction banking deployment is really in terms of what strategy banks have taken. Banks tend to take different strategies of it. You could choose to have a model where the deployment could be centralized. You could choose to have a model where you have a hub and spoke, where you define the geographies into logical units and then look at how you can deploy it. and finally you could do a decentralized deployment. So the strategy that is adopted to do deployment of a global transaction banking platform really depends on whether you want to take country by country approach, or you could probably to take product processor or product processor approach. If you have a product processor that takes care of different areas like payments, like trade, like treasury, then you could first choose to enter a market with one product and then expand onto it, or you could choose to expand, go country on country. So these are different diverse mechanisms in which one would approach the technology and the rollout challenges of global transaction banking deployment when a bank embarks onto that. So that's pretty much what I had. Over back to you, Boonping.
Thanks, Sanjit. Very interesting in terms of rollout approach. Now, in Asia, what has been some of the more common approaches that you've seen? Perhaps looking at some of the regional banks who have kind of emerging or developing transaction banking capabilities. What are the technological challenges that you see?
Yeah, I think firstly the global transaction banks are playing in the market, and the regional players are also trying to play in the same market. And there are numerous technology challenges. I think one really comes about into how the main thing about transaction banking is to really have a good reach in terms of multiple countries when you're looking at a regional transaction bank. So the ability to roll out quickly into different countries, offer a standardized product, because the economies of scale really come by offering standardized product. This has been a challenge. In terms of technology, I think choosing a platform that enable you to do the implementation across, and which can bring you majority of the functionalities that you're looking to try out to offer to your customers across the regions, because having one platform really is key and beneficial, because it really reduces down integration costs and so on. And then the other challenges are definitely around different languages and different entities, legal entity structures that need to be set up within the operating system, operational, transaction banking systems and so on. And finally, data secrecy, I think, plays an important role. Some countries do have very stringent rules in terms of where data can reside, so they wouldn't be comfortable with taking data outside the country. So the law will mandate that you need to have data resident in the country, which means that you cannot logically look at one deployment, but you may have to look at a deployment which is what I spoke about some time back, which is a hub and spoke model, where the spoke where the financial data of the country resides could be just in Singapore, whereas the hub could be somewhere else. So that kind of a model also possesses challenges around that. And because there's pressure in terms of the revenues, banks, the challenge is really the next in terms of finding out where to maximize revenues, and that's where the analytics plays an important role. People are looking at having very sophisticated analytics as well as sophisticated revenue management and billing, because finally it's a fee-based income business, and you have to maximize and offer customers some really good value propositions in terms of the way you bill the customer so that they see benefit in staying with you. So these are some of the technology and implementation challenges that we've seen in rolling out a global regional transaction bank. Okay,
Sanjit, the question for you. How easy is it for FIs to link their core banking system to the Oracle solution?
Yeah, so the Oracle solution really is around having a service-based architecture. We publish services that enable integration very easily onto FlexCube. One of the concerns around whenever there's integration and when external systems are talking to FlexCube is around the security and the technology components that really come from Oracle in terms of web services manager and security domains and so on, that really enable you to have a very secure infrastructure that will allow information that can come through the corporates right into FlexCube. And FlexCube does have great capabilities around straight through processing. So really, the corporate sends a payment across. It can straight through go into and do the accounting as well as the payment processing in a very sophisticated fashion.
Okay. Now, we have about 5 minutes for Q&A. I would like to open up some questions to both Marie and Eng Hock regarding some of the challenges. For Eng Hock, for your Maybank to E implementation, you mentioned besides technology, there were also people and process challenges. Could you share with us, Sanjit talk about, for example, different regulatory requirements, legal requirements, regulation around data securities. Now, you are looking at this from in Asia, where we have, for example, different currencies, different regulations. Could you share how, in terms of approach, in addressing some of these challenges? Eng Hock?
Okay. Okay. In terms of from the regulator point of view, right? For each country in the ASEAN region. Now, some are very developed, some are not really. Again, like I said, the bank will always look for the best. The best means we comply with the international standard. Because as and when the world is evolving, look at it here today, the situation from the economic perspective, a lot of changes in the market. So we are to ensure that the bank provide the best services to our customers, to make sure that whatever money the corporate customers are transacting are fully protected. So that's why we never compromise in terms of security, even though in this respective country may not require that, we still provide the kind of security services for our customers. Classic example, if even though the country doesn't require you to have a two-tier firewall, but you go for it. Firewall itself, we may have one firewall from company A, the other one will be for company B. That means that I'm not saying that for our corporate customers. I'm talking about this the firewall, the type of product of the firewall from this A and B. You see, so that even though you can hack into A, what is the likelihood that you can go through the second wall? See, so these are the things that we are very concerned, and we always try to look for the best for our corporate customers. Now, from the regulator point of view, here is we must always have constant engagement with our regulators. Now, again, regulators is always looking at from the regulation point of view, but again, from a banking point of view, because we know our customer the best, you see, we always in a constant communication with them. So we must always feedback to them also. There are certain things like, for instance, like you just rightly pointed out, for instance, like payments in a certain type of currency. Does the regulator in certain region, do they have any plan to use a single currency like SEPA? Now, in the ASEAN region, in the ASEAN Banker, we have been talking about this single currency for this ASEAN region. Well, I believe that it's a two-way communication for both sides to share ideas, regulators and the banks plus this technology service provider. How can we come in and help the region, or help the regulators, or help the banks to drive the kind of agenda? Or else we'll be constantly always talking about debating, should I use a dollar, should I continue to use a euro, or should I continue to use renminbi? But again, you look at it, the situation here is renminbi today has been evolving and getting a lot of attraction from the market. Now, I think one thing here is I was reading this particular article from a consultant, which is very interesting, talking about renminbi. You see, just to share you guys in terms of payments in renminbi, why the Chinese government in China always like to encourage people to trade in renminbi, for a simple reason, because they see that because the other side of the currency, like for example, dollar is depreciating for the past few months, but we are not talking about currently. You see, now whereas renminbi is getting stronger or stable compared to this dollar. So guess what happened here is whatever goods that you produce in China is getting more expensive for you to sell in US. So that is the reason why the Chinese government, have this agenda behind to say that, hey, I want to encourage people to trade in renminbi, so that across the board, whatever goods that you purchase, it will be quite standard across the board. And in terms of the pricing, in terms of another thing here is to share here is driving down the unit processing cost is very interesting. Now in this China today, people are always talking about the unit processing cost is getting higher and higher. Is it true? But again, if with the global a solution that we have today, whether it's from Oracle, whether it's from this like Autobahns that what Deutsche Bank has mentioned, Maybank, we also have our global electronic banking. So how can we assist our customers to drive down all these unit processing costs? So not only from one aspect, the regulators' perspective, we also can come in from the bank's angle, from this IT angle, to help to assist our customers to compete effectively in this kind of global economic crisis.
Okay. Thanks, Hope. Yeah, on that perspective, especially with the diverse kind of payments options that we have in Asia, to know whether eventually we'll move towards renminbi, or or banks are just required to centralize their multi currency payment capability. Let me just, we're running short of time, but let me just get a perspective from Mary as well, on in terms of some of the on the architecture for kind of core transaction banking capability. What does she see as important in terms of creating the, obviously they have it in place, but in terms of governance or enforcing such a architecture, Marie?
Right. I mean, that's definitely a challenge, right? So especially in the regulatory space where we see, regulations are changing across the different countries, and for Deutsche Bank, that's especially challenging given our global reach. So we see regulators coming out with new guidelines around technology risk, transaction signing, strong authentication, and even from a payments perspective, in terms of making sure we do monitoring from an AML perspective. So a lot of different regulatory guidelines definitely to keep track of. And one thing that we try to do in Deutsche Bank is to make sure that we leverage on our in-country teams. So in product management, we have a lot of the products are managed in the regional head office, also working with our global head office in Frankfurt. So a lot of the product managers are actually either sitting in the regional office or in the global head office. But we do also have a very strong footprint of in-country product managers, and those are they are very key to making sure that in each country we are kept up to date in terms of the latest regulations. Whether that be internet banking, or whether it's a new sort of payment initiative, or a new, real-time sort of protocol that we have to, comply with. So it's a range of things, and we work together across the different teams to make sure that we do regular reviews of any new regulatory guidelines that we have to comply with. We also have a dedicated team just looking at market advocacy, because for Deutsche Bank it's very important that yes, not only do we keep up to date in terms of where some of the regulations, where the market is heading, but we actually take a proactive approach in being involved in how we can participate to drive those market developments. And globally there are a lot of developments, for example, in Europe with SEPA, and sort of the deadline to sort of move towards SEPA, at least from a payment perspective, by February 2014. We are very much engaged in that initiative, making sure we are keeping our clients not only up to date, but helping them get ready for a change, for a market change that is a big impact to them. So it's two fronts, right? Making sure we continue to engage with regulators, and that happens in the different countries, and also at the same time being proactive in being engaged in some of the market advocacy activities, and for sort of big market-driven initiatives that we actually have a lot of focus to provide consultancy and advisory services to our clients to also help them, comply with these ever-changing requirements and landscape. So.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mary, for bringing that perspective in terms of working across markets, not just in terms of compliance, but in terms of advising clients and having a proactive stance and kind of looking at some of these issues. Now we are kind of over time, but let me just ask Sanjit, looking at the technology perspective, of course there are other big areas when we look at building regional transaction banking platform. Technology is one important aspect of it. So Sanjit, we talk about the challenges. Now what advice would you give some of the regional banks that are building or implementing their platform across the region? Things to watch out for.
Yeah, from my experience, I think the first thing really to look out for is how you plan to execute. A platform that you choose has to cater to the functional needs of the region, and I think one should not look at specifics of each country in too much depth, and that's where you have to look at what is the common factors that you want to, common products that you offer, and try and segregate between what is the base functional product that you offer across the countries versus what are the peripherals. And when I say peripherals, it is really around talking about what fields need to be captured so that you may match up to some of the regulatory compliance stuff. What can you do in terms of reports, extractions, and all of that? So the approach to it really is to have a platform that can cater to your basic business products that you want to offer, whether it's payments, whether it's treasury, whether it is trade finance, and so on. And then try and build a common governance model on top of that to see that you have the commonality, because if you're targeting 15 countries, you really need to have that platform, the base foundation platform really will play the key in terms of how you approach it. And then yes, every country will have certain level of degree of customization or enhancements that you may need to do the product. But it's kind of very important, and we have seen some of the institutions really get it wrong by entering a country and trying to do a lot of customizations onto the standard product and then finding it difficult to roll it out into the next country, because it's very important for you to try and future-proof the investment that you make in a rollout across the region. So really choose a platform that you have a foundation, a very strong foundation, and try and not customize it too much, because then you will lose the opportunity to kind of the cost is recurring in terms of upgrades. So you have to make sure that you have a platform that you put in place, and with some vision of saying that yes, the markets will changing. When the vendor is going to give you a platform, and the vendor is going to come out with newer versions of the product. So you have to have some vision in terms of maybe a 3-year, 5-year, or 3 to 5 year window to say that yes, I go with this rollout right now. I'll be done in 2 years, and 3 years from then, I need to upgrade it. So don't diverge too much from the standard product. Yes, you can build a lot of things, but build it on the peripheral. Don't try and change the product. That's when you will really get economies of scale by standardization, taking it, and also future-proofing your investment so that every 3 to 5 years you're able to upgrade that infrastructure and be on the competitive edge and show your leadership in terms of getting newer products, because it is important for banks to look at what the vendors are investing in the products and try and leverage those rather than trying to invent it, because that will come as and when they upgrade and keep abreast with the product, that will come automatically.
Okay, great. Thanks, Sanjit, for that insight. Now, at this point, let me summarize some of the points that we've been discussing. We've been talking about the need for integration or providing an integrated solution by banks, increasingly both global and regional banks as clients with diverse multi-locations requirements are driving demands on these institutions. The requirement for greater automation and connectivity also driving banks to provide multi-channel banking platform that can integrate with customers' ERP and treasury management system. We talk about the challenges in terms of operating regionally, increasingly in terms of the differences in regulatory requirements, and from the institutional perspective, technology is one aspect of the challenge, but increasingly also in terms of a standardized process, especially for banks that operate across different jurisdictions. People, training, and skills level is also another issue that we talk about, that we hear from Eng-Hock. The need to provide a consistent customer experience across different access channels, especially for providing customers for critical information on their account is very important. Now, we also lastly talk about, despite all the challenges of operating in different jurisdictions and requirement, the need for a basic standardized product, the danger of over customization, and the need to future-proof the solution so that a solution can be rolled across the region. So now, on that note, we'd like to thank all our speakers today. We'd like to thank Esther, Marie, Eng-Hock, and Sanjit for your contribution and for your insight. Just want to let everyone know that a recording of this session will be available on the Asian Banker website. Now, a proceeding report on today's session will also be available on our website shortly. So until our next session, we'd like to thank all